Hello, 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 hello. Sorry about that last one. Wow. Here we are, back for another episode of Talk Show. And sweet baby Jesus. So, yeah, we've had some fun in our time apart. Gosh, and by that I mean watching fascism try to devour America. It kind of reminds me of the first time I played Super Smash Brothers back in the N64 days. You remember this? You had that one friend who would basically play either Donkey Kong or Kirby, and he would like grab you with Donkey Kong, put you on his back, and then just throw both of you off the edge. That's what this feels like. Some crazy stuff has happened this past week. First of which, Justin Timberlake has announced Lyme disease. Goodness gracious. If you would just stop having sex with ticks, I think the problem would be solved. I think it's that simple. I noticed that someone called into question the truthfulness of his Lyme disease claim, and someone saying that he may not have that. I think even investigating further is a waste of your time. Just let the man have his Lyme disease announcement, all right? Next on the list, and this is a wild one, folks. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you've seen these. Chances are you have seen these. But Sydney Sweeney was in these American Eagle ads. And the internet has simultaneously broken and caught fire on this subject. It's ridiculous. I want to call out, like, the first time I saw the ads, I genuinely thought they were just sort of innocent. I was like, oh, all right, fashion ads. You know, you get Sydney Sweeney because she makes all the Gen Z dinguses go erect. You know, I get it, right? She's good looking. A friend of mine pointed out that I think she graduated valedictorian, or like she performed extremely well in her class. So, you know, I get the pun on jeans and jeans. To me, it was that surface level. I was like, okay, that's what's going on. Then I start seeing social media stuff, and I like try to live on the fringe of social media because, God, it is such a cesspool. But as I start like hearing things through the grapevine, seeing other like political commentary folk make some notes about this, I started to go, okay, why does anyone even care further than there's this new ad set? So I start looking at things, and sure enough, the GOP, apparently known for their fashion, the GOP is getting involved in sort of defending the ads. And I saw this and I just said, huh? Like what? Like, why do you care? Like, why did Republicans care? I had no idea. Like, which means, you know, it was on me. Obviously I was uninformed for a bit of this, but it just made me scratch my head and go, huh? And then I'm seeing the GOP defend it. And then I'm like, okay, so what's actually up? So I start to scratch a little bit, dig a little deeper. So I start reading, and I find out that the CEO of American Eagle, while not explicitly MAGA, which may be a decision, I'm not going to make a commentary or speculate on whether this individual is pro or not. But there is no denying that the CEO is putting money into Republican Party hands in form of donations, basically local donations. So there's 3 or 4 different Republican campaigns that the CEO, I believe it's Jay Stotstein, I'm going to probably mispronounce the last name, but has put money in these party hands. Okay, all right. So again, like, you might just be like, what does that have to do with anything? I also felt that way. I was like, but I can't help but notice I couldn't help but notice that there was this money going from American Eagle into the Republican Party. All right. Then as I'm digging even further, I notice on social media, Lizzo like claps back on this whole subject. And you know you're in trouble when celebrities feel the need to sort of clap back in the first place. So I was like, what? Okay. So then I have to dig a little bit further. And as you go deeper down the Sydney Sweeney funnel, you will undeniably find some MAGA stuff. It's pretty easy to figure out if you're a registered Republican or a registered Democrat. Someone on Reddit decided to do a little bit of sleuthing. I don't know if the original source is from Reddit, but that's where it was cross-posted, and that's how I found it. So I'm just going to say someone on Reddit decided to post this, whoever the original source is. I want to say thanks, making us all aware that Miss Sweeney is indeed a registered Republican. And more notably, she registered in June of 2024, which would have been post-primaries, to say the least. So that seems to be pretty fair, pretty expressly in favor of supporting Trump. It seems almost like the only reason she signed up was because she supported Trump. Okay, all right. So we're getting deep. Listen, if you love Sydney Sweeney, you might be able to put the politics aside. But these days, I cannot put the politics aside. There's too much that's being defended by the fairly evil, heinously evil Republican Party. So it's all bad. The further down you go, it's bad. She threw a MAGA birthday party for her mom. Anyway, moral of the story, I'm not 100% sure, but maybe don't investigate people you like too closely. Gosh, never meet your heroes. I'm sure that's all part of this. Anyway, so yeah, wow. There's a whole lot going on with this story. I don't want to watch it that closely, but I may just have to hear about it whether I want to or not. So if you're like me, that's the whole story. That's actually what's happening. That's why there's all this controversy, and it's worth being educated. Hopefully there's more to this story that I can learn and others can learn, but this is as much information as I have been able to find. Wow, that was all just bullet point number 2. So the third thing that has happened since we have last met, Trump tariffs again. Wowie, wowie, wow. Ow, wow, wow, wow. If you're an Expedition 33 player like me, I've been crushing that game. So in particular, this time, good old friendly Canada, who we just love so dearly. Canada. Canada's like the frosting on the American cake. Not going to make any other references. Canada is an amazing place. I have met and loved many a Canadian. I have close family friends who are Canadians. Shout out to the K-Jax family. Displaced or sort of immigrants from Latvia. Lovely people. Grew up visiting them every summer. Eating lobster up in Maine. It was amazing. So like Canada, you're beautiful. You're perfect. We love you just the way you are. Real Americans love Canada. But Trump clearly hates Canada. So, of course, fuck the Canadians, 35% tariffs. I hate this timeline so much. I'm serious. Like, real Americans, real patriots, respect Canada. Love Canada. Know that Canada is an economic partner. They've been a military ally. They have done so much for us and continue to do so much for us. And we are richer for the exchange. Financially, culturally, all of it is better because of the fabulous Canadians. Like, I mean, a lot of America loves hockey because of our friends up in Canada. Anyway, so of course Canada's being tariffed, and I hate it all very much. Number 4 that we've missed since we've last spoken is, again, on White House social media. They post angry shit that makes everyone angry on social media using ICE footage. So this time they used a viral sound from a TikTok/Instagram Jet 2 ad. So the viral sound, was being used for harmless stuff. And then, of course, ICE takes it and posts it from the official White House account. That's the thing that is just blowing my mind. Let's just break it down. The White House administration is posting torture porn on the official social media. So, like, if you watch this crap, you're a Nazi. I'm tired of pretending that you're not. If you can watch that, like the torture of humans, and like it, there's something fundamentally flawed in your worldview, in your brain. 50 years from now, folks, these ICE ads are going to be like B-roll documentary footage, kind of like from the OG integration period, where you see like white adults throwing shit at black children trying to go to the same fucking school. This is the same shit, people. Same shit. Different decade. God, I'm so angry. Okay, I struggled where to place this in the episode because you could put this under a bunch of different things, but global recognition of the Palestinian state. Originally, I had written a joke, and Jesus Christ, I am so sorry to have even thought about a joke for this. Like, this actually is potentially good news. The bad news is that Palestinians in Gaza are picking up dry noodles off the ground because they have no food. And they don't even have water to cook or clean or do any of this shit. You think it's bad? You have no idea. Especially like if you're watching the government state-sponsored media like faux news there, the Foxy Friends, they're not posting this stuff. You just won't see them post a bad story because it will mess up the narrative. But here's the honest truth. It's genocide. Millions of people are starving, dying, and there's a lot of stuff out there that you can watch if you want to feel really bad about it. And that's that. Thankfully, I watched a video that made me feel terrible about it, and it made me rethink writing jokes about the state of affairs there. I just can't do it. So anyway, the good news is that there's global recognition of the Palestinian state. The bad news is that that shit's also still on fire. All of it. Okay, so this is a little more neutral news. I don't know if you're sports folks. I happened to find my way to a Houston Chronicle article that talks about the Houston Texans training camp. Oh yeah, not a big sports guy, gotta be honest with you, but I do respect athleticism. I do really respect high-tier athleticism. Like, I love watching the Olympics. Every professional football player, I would put it that way, every professional football player is a top-tier world-class athlete. Like, no one in the NFL is bad at football, let's be clear, and hasn't been that way for decades and decades and decades. So these guys are ultra-competitive. They're the best at what they do. So at this Texans training camp, there was a play that went viral this weekend. S. Callan Bullock, I hope I'm saying your name right, catches this insane bomb out of the sky and makes a godly completion. Dude just fine, walks it off, jumps up, and is like, does this amazing celebration. I can't share the video because the Houston Chronicle only gives you one gift article. So we live in a world of subscriptions, which blows, and everybody hates that. But if you do want to check it out, I'll post a link to the article. If you haven't been to the Chronicle, you'll get this first one as a gift article. Hooray. If not, I'm very sorry. You'll have to find it somewhere else. I'm sure you can find it on Twitter or things like that. The last story, and this comes from a Glamour magazine article. Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to vary my sources. I'm trying to make sure that I have a pulse on more than just 40-year-old guys playing video games. One story I thought was particularly of note, the cultural trend of crash out. In particular, this seems to be notable among young women, and I'm going to provide the source article from this because she basically has reviewed tons of social media posts, and there's quite a negative sentiment trend. So notably amongst young women, things like politics around reproductive rights, RFK Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again malarkey, maybe even the latest season of Love Island. There's all these reasons why people are experiencing this crash out, especially young women are experiencing this whole crash out thing. So I'm going to share a link to it. Stephanie McNeil wrote this article, captures things perfectly. And in the article, Stephanie actually quotes Rachel LaPointe. Is that how you say it? God, she's well known on social medias. I'm sorry, I'm going to say everybody's last name wrong. But she says, I have lived 1,000 years in the decade since Trump entered American politics. Well said. Very well said. Guys, take note here, okay? There needs to be some recognition that the women in your life are likely under heightened stress. Like, you should recognize that. And whatever you can do to help them deal with the nonsense of today, please do so. So the article goes on to talk about like what we can do about it. There's a great interview with a professor of psychology from Syracuse. Please feel free to read the whole thing. I'm going to just give you some highlights. The one downside I'll say is that the suggestions are a lot of the same old stuff. And we've talked about this in previous episodes. Like, they suggest limiting your doom scrolling, Focus on self-care, go outside, eat your favorite snack, talk to your friends. They're all probably angry too. I myself have been crying my way through an entire pint of ice cream pretty much every night since Trump took office. Because you know what? I've earned that. So I want to just continue to stress this message. At least at the moment, we think your vote counts a lot. It may be the only place that there's still some semblance of your voice in politics. One of the bigger stories that has come out of this past week is there's some serious nonsense afoot in the world of voting down Texas way. So they're trying to redraw congressional districts to give Republicans more seats. Basically solidifying the guardians of the pedophiles majority down there and trying to make it so that it's much harder for who they perceive to be in the minority to get their voice counted. I do appreciate that California Governor Gavin Newsom has fired back immediately and said, if you're going to do it, we're going to do it, and we'll redraw California to be entirely blue. Easy peasy, it wouldn't be hard for them to do that. And that would also be pretty dramatic. GOP just playing naughty games. They're just like, who's going to stop us? Because there's no sort of historical precedent. There's a lot of honor system, it turns out, in American politics. The election fraud case does continue in Rockland County, and there's a lot of mixed information still about this. There's a supposed whistleblower, CIA whistleblower, who is making social media stuff. There's a lot of questionability about this post, though. It seems like the person might be being pretty generous in explaining their history, being in the CIA, like did an internship for 4 weeks or something like that. I'm being facetious there. I'm not going to research that too closely because, again, you can do your due diligence if you care. Some sources are saying there's no solid evidence of fraud. Others are saying there's some really unusual voting patterns. Whatever the truth may be, however you feel about this, discovery is approved. And that means that the case will move forward. That means they're going to collect evidence from both sides, for and against. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we hit the good news section of today, not one of my favorite topics, unfortunately, but we have to make sure that Epstein doesn't go away. Okay, the White House is scrambling as hard as they can to try to prevent these documents from coming out. A lot of back and forth has happened. So if you are struggling to keep up, so am I. I have taken some time to give you to put together a high-level overview and kind of break it all down. So here's the most recent stuff. Mid-July, a heavily redacted memo comes out, and it basically says there's no evidence of a client list, right? That kind of started this most recent dumpster fire. Then, some of the Democrats, such as Schumer, Blumenthal, and Peters, they invoke an obscure federal statute to compel the DOJ to turn over all the Epstein stuff, including grand jury testimony. Now that, we're waiting for an answer on. Hopefully by August 15th, I believe that's the official date that they have to provide some answer. That's what we'll hear. Now, in the meantime, this past week, Trump made a huge deal directing Bondi to unseal the jury transcripts. If you don't know anything about law, and I didn't know anything about law, you would see that and you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe they are making an attempt to put the truth out there. But then you learn a little bit more about this. It was incredibly symbolic because the judge on that case and the DOJ both agreed in court that the judge has no authority to unseal these documents. And they went into this, the DOJ went into this knowing that the judge would have no authority to unseal these documents. Okay, so it's just bravado, and it had absolutely no substance. As all this crap is going on, DOJ officials, top DOJ officials, mind you, not like some intern or a clerk, Todd Blanche literally goes and interviews Ghislaine Maxwell. God, I hate her so much. Human trafficking, crap face. It's terrible, right? It's just so obvious that there's some kind of a pardon deal or immunity deal or something is happening here that no one's going to be told about. We're not going to hear what the conversation was in that cell. The administration of total transparency, the most transparent administration ever, will not tell you anything that they're doing. To add some more fuel to that fire, the survivor families are speaking out. So Virginia Giuffre, I'm mispronouncing your last name. I apologize. I'll do better and learn how these are pronounced. So her family has made super loud calls to release all the documents. They're like, there should be no leniency. Not just for Maxwell, but anybody. Anybody who's in there should be no leniency. Everybody should be in jail, etc. And then, of course, the GOP is super divided about this. Like, I'm going to put this in air quotes, but like the good Republicans, I'm going to just say the non-MAGA Republicans, which there are very few, are saying, get the files out here. Even a chunk of MAGA is now saying, get the files out there. But a lot of people are falling in line and protecting the pedophiles. So I just have to ask, with this group of racists protecting these pedophiles, are we great now? Is America great? Is this the greatness? Butterfly meme? Lands, is this it? Our friends in the UK made sure not to let it go. He was visiting because he's opening some stupid golf course or something like that. One of the reporters was like, hey, are you doing all this shit to make Epstein go away? And Trump squirms immediately. He just goes, oh, I can't believe you'd even ask that question. Every reporter laughs in the room. They all laugh right in his face. So if you want to see the Orange Man squirm a little bit, that's in one of Midas Touch's most recent videos. Let's move right along. I'm ready for some good news. I don't know about you. Hopefully you are ready for some good news. Good news. Good news, everyone. I'm going to play this great little clip for you. This went viral from somewhere in India. I found this very entertaining. Let's give it some volume here. Not too much volume, though. I mean, look at how cute this little doggy is, right? Come on. She's like slowly creeping up. Cute little paw catches. Wow. So yeah, that went viral. I thought you might enjoy some delightful dog stuff. So that's dog stuff 1. Then this clip This clip was super popular on the "What's Wrong with Your Dog" subreddit. So have a little bit of this. Ah, yes. I love this one because this reminds me of like when I'm visiting my friend's children. Literally, like I'm like a tranquilized beanbag on the couch, stoned and laden with Taco Bell, and they're just running around like methed out monkeys. Meth monkeys. Here's some like actually good news. I thought this would be cool. So in the UK, seagrass is making a huge comeback. So essentially, this is for you conservationists out there. I love wildlife. I love when people are trying to preserve marine habitats. This is what's actually happening. So near Dorset, 100 eco-moorings were established to help protect and rehabilitate the marine environment, specifically to benefit the seahorses. Yeah! We are bringing seahorses back, known for carrying the offspring to term and ultimately giving birth to the live babies. How lovely. My only concern is that seahorses may be too woke for America because they're men giving birth. Can't believe I even said that, but yeah. Beep boop bop. All right, there was another good one. Shapow. Oh yeah. Okay, this I also thought was really cool. Like, I'm a huge space nerd. If you like space related things, check out Astrum on YouTube. Great channel. They just made their second channel, Astrum Extra, which has even more good content, but it's covering broader topics. But yeah, so if you like space stuff, this was cool. The NISAR has just launched. I'm going to call that the NISAR. It's basically a joint venture between NASA and the Indian Space Research Organization. And the cool thing about this bad boy is it's going to map the Earth in exquisite detail. super high res, glorious earth shots in magnificence. So very excited about this. And it kind of makes me think with like the Sweeney gene ads. Now we've got NASA mapping the planet with NISAR. Somewhere I think Levi's plotting a moon landing with Lizzo. For the record, her genes will be black. She's the putting in the proof. Gotta blame it on her juice. Yeah. Oh, and we're back. Okay, so next section, talk about some gaming stuff. Praise the sun? Yeah, gaming stuff. Okay, since we're on the subject of outer space and being disconnected from reality, the Game Fest of 2025 continues. Oh my gosh. Coming out of left field, Ninja Gaiden has released a Metroidvania. That's not the right way to phrase it. Ninja Gaiden didn't come out with it. But basically, the developer of Ninja Gaiden has come out with a Ninja Gaiden-themed Metroidvania called Ragebound. It's really cool. I've only played like maybe an hour of it, but it feels like super authentic, very crisp 2D Ryu action in kind of like an adrenaline-fueled Symphony of the Night style adventure. It's a little more action-y and a little less explory, but it does have some really nice map clearing, exploring of the map, etc., etc. There's like alternate paths, stuff like that. So really, really good stuff. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do. And also, later this year, Ninja Gaiden is back with number 4. It has been a minute since Team Ninja has put out a Ninja Gaiden game. Actually, on the shelf behind me, I actually played the first Ninja Gaiden. I'm sorry, the first of the re-release series of Ninja Gaiden. Remaster? The sequels, right? Revitalize? What's the word that I'm looking for? I'm struggling with the word. Anyway, so the series was brought back, resurrected in the aughts. And I played tons of Ninja Gaiden on Xbox. I think it was original Xbox. And then on Xbox 360, there was Ninja Gaiden 2 and then Razor's Edge, which was 3. And I believe that's where they left off. I'll have to fact check myself. Apologize if I'm off the mark a little bit here. But the 4th game is finally coming out after almost a decade, maybe even longer, of being out of the public mainstream. So that's really, really cool. I love Ninja Gaiden games. I even like the really incredibly difficult old ones on the NES. Birds are jerks. But yeah, we've now got a new Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which is that Metroidvania, and then I think October is Ninja Gaiden 4. I don't know that I'm going to pick that up immediately, but I do love Ninja Gaiden, so I'm hoping to maybe snag that on a sale, something like that. Speaking of big blockbuster games and ones that I potentially had missed, I was very late to the party with Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Holy shit. What a game. What a game. I had some complaints about the story and some of the reveal, but that's like super nitpicky. Like overall the story is good, is great. I should be clear. It's great. I didn't feel like it was the toppest of top tier, but it's awesome. It keeps everything moving. It keeps everything well connected. They're sort of stringing you along and revealing bits of information as you go. Any complaints I have about the story, completely stifled by the sheer, unadulterated enjoyment of playing the game. It has an excellent gameplay loop. They've really, like, perfectly mastered the kind of, like, turn-based RPG genre, is what it felt like in this game. It's got just enough enemies for you to feel like, you know, there's accomplishment as you move through the area. It's just hard enough for it to be challenging in some places, but not too hard. And there's lots of different difficulty settings, so you can go to easy mode. I totally played through most of it on easy mode my first round through. And now I'm playing through a second game on expert mode, which is the hardest. It's just so entertaining. Beautiful visuals. Ugh. Wow, is it beautiful. It's so beautiful my PC can't really handle it. I actually have to upgrade my PC in the next coming weeks because I'm on Windows 10, and there's no security updates for Windows 10 after October. October is going to be big for a lot of reasons. So yeah, looking forward to playing more of Clair Obscur. I do believe that the studio has announced that there's going to be a sequel, and it's Sandfall Interactive and Kepler are the developers and producers, I believe. I may be using the wrong titles, but definitely Sandfall and Kepler, those two I know for sure. Excellent stuff. If you haven't played it, please do. It's so worth it. One of the best games I've played in a long time. Probably one of the best games I've played this year. And I've had some really good ones so far this year. All right, so good stuff. In my last episode, I had mentioned Death Stranding 2. I was excited to pick that up. I did, and I finally had a chance to play it. And let me just say, it was simultaneously the most beautiful and just the most incredibly, fascinatingly, most boring first hour of a video game I've played in a long time. Wow. It seems that my memory has completely deleted the gameplay loop of Death Stranding long enough for me to spend $70, and then it came back once my hands started to cramp from white knuckle holding L2 and R2 as Norman Reedus stumbles down a desert slope. So I made it to a stealth section, promptly got caught immediately. I mean, in an age where everyone's life is dialed up to 11, the new idea of fun is walking aimlessly for hours and hours. Like, I remember the good old days of eating hallucinogens and saving princesses from turtles and apes. That's still around, but a little bit different. The stealth sections of Death Stranding 2 feel a little clunky. It feels like they've put more of that in the game this time. So it's like more of the combat and other things like that. And that wasn't really what I was hoping for. I was hoping for more travel, like give me more vehicles, give me more ways to get around, make it meaningful for me to get to a point and then have to go back. Like I should be able to make that return trip really easy or something. I don't know. A little salty about that. I did die immediately. I'm hoping that my autosave is not too far back. But speaking of salt and pepper, I'd like to move on to our main story for this episode of the show, where I can't help but notice, like, a lot of the theme of this episode is how angry America is. Like, there's a lot of anger, my fellow Americans, while, the rich are looting and pillaging. Part of me wonders, can we even change the system? Can we even fix it? Stephanie's article from before calls out the crash out, and I'll tell you, I'm absolutely feeling it. But do we have to burn America down? Jesus, for us to be able to figure out how to fix this? I mean, all these impacts of destroying the Department of Education, and the list is infinitely long. I can't even rattle them off anymore. It's so wide-reaching. You'd need series of videos, and I can't be that sad for that long. So how do we get America back on track? That's kind of my question, and I pose that a little bit hypothetically, but I've been wrapping my mind around what I will very generously call an economic treatise, but really it's just I've put a few paragraphs together describing how you might be able to shift things from the perspective of maximizing profit at the top and instead building prosperity from the bottom up. So that's actually part of the title. What I've whipped up for you, and we'll discuss a little bit here, is what I call trickle up economics, building prosperity from the ground floor. And here's kind of the hook of this. What if a business didn't take a dime of profit and instead used every dollar to lift up their workers? Basically proving that when the bottom rises, everybody rises. So I have a draft of this. I'll share a link in the comments if you're interested in reading it. It could be cool to just start circulating, but here's the overall idea, right? We want to shift where the profits go. Instead of all of it being extracted by the funnel going up to the top, you would focus on lifting workers up. And I'm sure some wealthy folks hear that and they just clench. But the idea is that we stop prioritizing incredibly short-term gains for the rich and instead create a rising tide for the whole team. I am personally convinced that this would actually make the rich long-term just as rich or even richer. And at the same time, every dollar spent in low-income homes is worth more than in a wealthy home because of repeated consumption and employment effects. And I learned this. I didn't just make that up. I learned this by digging into something called Keynesian multiplier theory, which, wow, it's dense. It's basically an economic policy / principle. It took a lot for me to understand it. I still don't understand all of it. I cheated a little bit and had the AI teach me some of it and kind of summarize. And even then, I think my understanding is a little bit loose at best, so isn't that too bad for you? But here we are. The idea is, and I'll share a link to the wiki, the idea is that aggregate demand influences output for the economy and inflation. Aggregate demand, like everybody wanting to buy things, heavily influences where the economy goes. And this is pretty cool because really the point is that, like, if you give everybody money, everybody spends money. If you only give the rich money, all the other people spend less money. And it's crazy, right? And it's also fun because the rich would also make more because that influx of wealth to everybody, we're all then buying, I don't know, Ray-Ban Meta sunglasses or whatever stupid shit because we've got more dough. So how would we get this started? Well, let's be honest here. The current administration sure as fuck is not going to give anybody money to lift up the poors, especially under El Rey Donaldo Trumpino, right? I think, maybe you could do private person could fit this. It would take a very special person, and our current selection of billionaires definitely can't cut that cheese. What with the infatuation with destroying democracy and having sex with children. Yeah, that old chestnut. I've thought about one route that you could take to make this happen, as opposed to trying to get government involvement, which we can't even think about that right now, is if somebody was well paid and already had lots of money, they might be able to keep themselves separate from the business and not have to rely on the business for their own financial security. And that means that you would, in fact, be able to take all the profit and invest it back in. So the idea is that when you've got someone who is so wealthy, they can't be sort of co-opted in the same way, right? There's independence from the financial pressures that every single other person on the planet pretty much deals with. Also, you can't deny there's some sweet, sweet moral high ground if your business is focused on helping people. You'd be able to very quickly have an impact, and it could start in, a bunch of different industries. I would probably focus on a place like a trade-related industry because there are lots and lots of people employed in the trades, from electricians to carpenters to roofers to guys doing windows to basement waterproofers to, the list is crazy. I think there's something like 700,000 contractors in the United States today. I'd have to double check that fact. A few years back, there were at least that many. And there's millions of small businesses, right? There's something like 4 million small businesses in the USA. So, you'd have to go quick. You'd have to build it up, get it going, figure out how to get the profit wheel pumped back into the bottom, helping lift up the workers, better wage, all that other stuff. And then watch as all these people that are doing better suddenly can afford more. Like the GOP is complaining about low birth rates and blah, blah, blah. Well, nothing is affordable. And South Korea, interestingly enough, has made some very incredible strides recently on this topic. And this is one of the last things I'll leave you with in today's episode. Housing, the cost of housing tends to be one of the biggest impacts on whether or not people have children. And I'm going to use this South Korean example specifically. They kept trying to offer subsidies like credits to people, like money in your pocket for having a children, because South Korea has a famously low birth rate. They're actually in the negatives, and there's fear that in another 20 years or something like that, everyone's going to age out of a career, and there's not going to be any young people to then backfill all those positions and all that stuff. And they think that the country could slip into intense decline. Now, that's not the point. The point is, this year, they have changed where they're pointing the government's money to entice people to have kids. And they started offering housing subsidies. Instead of money in your pocket or credit for children, having a child or multiple children, whatever, they directly pointed the government support at helping people afford housing. Now, South Korea has an extreme housing market. It's the equivalent of an American paying $100,000 as like a down payment on an apartment and then also paying $2,000, $3,000 a month in rent. It's almost every penny that people have. So it's not quite as bad in America, but we're sure as hell on track for that. And fewer and fewer people, rapidly fewer and fewer people are being able to afford homes. That's a big piece. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but I'm saying it's clearly one of the reasons why birth rates are declining. It's an influence, I'll say it that. Maybe not a direct reason why, but it's a huge factor. It's an influence. And the South Koreans have suddenly started making it cheaper. Not making it cheaper, excuse me. They've been giving people money to afford larger apartments, more space than they had before. And sure enough, go figure, they've now posted, I think, 6 months in a row of reversal of declining birth rate. I don't know that they've fixed the problem entirely, but that to me screams a potential solution, right? I don't think we could ignore that. So, in America, maybe we try trickle up economics. Could be a thing, might not work at all, could all be nonsense. I would love to hear from you, the viewer, as to whether or not you think trickle up economics could work. Do you think the wealthy would stay as wealthy and continue to be wealthy? Do you think lifting up all the rest of us could be as impactful as I do? I know it's wishful thinking, right? Pie in the sky. But it just makes so much sense to me. It seems like the math is there too. It seems like the potential for this to be successful and work is there. So anyway, I won't belabor the point, but I just think that that's worth talking about and would love to hear from you as to whether you think this might be a path forward. And that's it for today. And thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you in the next episode.